Josh, should I grab some more water?
No, you can just tell me about the water and the coffee relationship.
The water and the coffee relationship is very important to have water with your coffee. As with most things except for food, don't drink water with your food because it waters down your digestive enzymes and digestive juices. But with coffee, you need water because otherwise you're going to dehydrate and turn into a raisin. Same thing with alcohol. You turn into like more of like a mushy raisin. Because drunk people are really squishy and they're kind of gross. As I can attest to as someone who's been drunk before.
Describe the kind of like side effects of, you can tell you're being dehydrated by not having enough water with your, coffee or your whatever.
Oh, there's so many side effects. Your mouth will start to feel dry. Mine gets like prickly when I'm really dehydrated, like feels itchy almost. Lips will get dry. I can feel my eyelids or like my eyeballs get a little bit like tired feeling or dry, itchy. Or if you start coughing, probably just dehydrated. Lots of Calgarians have a chronic cough, but it's just from not drinking enough water. My doctor even told me that. What else? If you're peeing lots, you're probably dehydrated. When you drink water, if you have to pee immediately afterwards, it's a sign of dehydration too, because your body's been holding onto the water and not letting you go pee, because until you give it water, and then it'll flush toxins out. What else?
Could you review the water here at Phil's? Was it quite refreshing?
It was good. Yeah, I feel like I need some more.
That's a vote of confidence.
What?
That's a vote of confidence.
Is it? Yeah, so refreshing.
So that was 8 ounces of coffee, which you drank roughly half.
Yeah, I'm so jazzed up already.
But you've had like more water than coffee. What is the optimum ratio of water to coffee?
Well, I know with alcohol you're supposed to have 2 glasses of water for every drink. I feel like coffee could be the same. I don't know if the water in the Americano counts though. It might.
That's true. So
I also feel like if you're dehydrated and you drink coffee, you just get sleepy. Do you notice that?
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, if I drink coffee, I just get tired, but I think my body just can't process it because it's so dehydrated.
Then you have to drink more coffee to combat the coffee low.
And then you just get more sleepy. You gotta drink water. Just water is all you need.
So water will enhance the caffeine in a sense.
Yeah, I think it will wake you up. Sometimes just like, one of the best ways to wake up is to just drink a liter of water as soon as you wake up before you eat any food. Yeah, it will help you wake up. That's one of the ways I become a morning person. You can even add lemon to it if you really want. Although lemon can be bad for your teeth. But you can think of that. It's good. Also, don't look at your phone in the morning. Don't like sit there looking at your phone. That's bad for your wake up routine. Get out of bed right away. Do stretches. Stretches help. This is coming from someone who's woken up at 4 to 5 a.m. for most of my life, especially on weekends, often after staying up late the night before. So
you're a pro.
Yes, I'm a pro. I can go to work on 3 hours sleep is pretty much my minimum to be functional and happy. I can do it on 1 hour, but that's when I'm kind of a zombie. I think I look very professional in this outfit.
You look amazing.
I look like I belong downtown.
You do. You look like some sort of music producer.
Wow.
Okay, stop under the flags and say something amazing. That's good right there.
Something amazing.
Yes.
I'm too old, but I just can't really relate. Also, I feel like it attracts like solicitors to your page. I see all sorts of people soliciting for like for like or shit like that. And I sometimes read people's hashtags and it's like the same shit on every single photo, like for like or photo of the day, and I'm like, who even like looks at what the photo of the day is? I don't know, maybe people do. I just don't relate to that. So to me it seems so weird. but I guess I would hashtag things to categorize them for myself. Like I have on my Tumblr, I hashtag anything with a cat in it or a dog. I hashtag as one of the others so that when I'm sad, I can look up cat or dog and see all the things that are under those hashtags. To me, that makes sense, but I think I'm just old. I just need to like have someone explain it to me and join the modern age.
Don't you find though that if you do use hashtags, it increases your reach?
I don't know, because my Instagram is now private, so it wouldn't even matter at this point. But I don't know if I want to increase my reach. Like I feel like the right people, which is usually people I already have met, are listening. I don't really want like a bunch of strangers or weird people watching what I'm doing. This is how you get stalkers, I think. Just something to be worried about, and there's a reason I haven't had a stalker yet. I don't get hate mail, probably because I don't have a very large reach. To be honest, I mostly use it as a way to catalog my memories and take photos at important events. I use it a lot to look over myself. Like I'll go back and look at the photos and remember those good times, because I don't have the best memory or like historical reference in my mind for my own life story. So I appreciate it for that reason, and then I can show specific people that I care about what's been going on. I don't mind some people looking in that I don't even know, but in general, I don't even post that much. I go on and look at other people's stuff because I'm kind of a creep. So that's what I use it for, is creeping mostly.
So you're a stalker who doesn't like to be stalked.
Well, I'm not a stalker. I never try and like figure out where someone's working or living or their real name.
If you Google somebody, does it qualify as a stalking?
I don't know, because I don't do that. But maybe. Depends on like your intent, or I think it could be or it could not be. Depends if you're a stalker. If you're a stalker doing that, then it's totally a part of your stalking, but I don't know.
How do you know then, like if you're being checked out, how do you know if it's crossed the line or whatever?
I just like feel uncomfortable. There was one person in my life who started showing up at every event I signed up for on Facebook, and I just thought it like could just easily have been coincidence, but it started to give me a weird vibe, and I can't say that it was stalking, but I got a weird feeling in my gut about it, and I'm like, that's enough for me to not ever say I'm going to go someplace on Facebook and have my Facebook's deleted, because I don't want. I've been stalked at my work a lot, actually more so than by people who know me. I've had people like come in 3 times a day to see if I'm working, and just after like maybe making prolonged eye contact with them and being a little too nice. Like, I don't know, it's kind of my customer service style. And I was a bit more naive when I was younger. I have a lot easier time like intuitively knowing where is the boundary and setting that for people. Particularly after working in a strip club, you learn a lot about body language and how to communicate to someone, like, this is the, like, don't fucking cross line. But when I was younger, I didn't know that, and I was just very sweet and kind to all people. So I'd have people, like, older men coming into my work all the time, repeatedly looking for me. So, and that was pretty creepy. And I think I've actually been, like, stalked more in that way than I ever have through my modeling. Like, naked all over the internet, and haven't really had anyone follow me through that I'm aware of, you know? But creepy dudes that you give customer service to, you gotta watch out for them. Probably creepy women too, but I haven't experienced that, so.
I'm shooting you with one hand.
You're doing it! How does it feel?
It feels like it should be a lot shakier than it is, but...
You're doing good. There's some interesting seats there, bicycle seats.
Yeah, we could come back here.
I can sense that a washroom is near. I sense it. Nobody wants to see you chew your nails or pick your nose or whatever else it is. Fondle your warts. Like, I think that's a lie that people want to see that on YouTube. Nobody wants to see it in person. So, like, if you're talking to someone and you start, like just fidgeting and getting weird, like, maybe they want to see it in video because it makes you more relatable, because they're like, oh, you're shitty and awkward just like me. You're also, like, just mediocre and acting out your weird impulses to, like, distract yourself from the present moment. But it makes people, if you start doing that in a conversation, it makes people uncomfortable. You can tell that their, like, attention starts to waver and, like, it's really unattractive. So
demonstrate.
You chew my nails? It's like yeah, it's not a good time.
Okay, example 2.
Example 2, me picking my nose. Although I do like seeing people in their cars doing it. I don't know why, because I'm like, you're just so, like, you see someone really going to town on their nose in a car, you're like, yeah, you think you're alone right now. Or like someone singing. Singing's even better, it's at least entertaining, but someone's just like going to town while they're like at a stop sign or whatever, or a red light. So good. It's just good to see. It's like, yeah, you enjoy your sense of privacy. Everyone can see you.
Okay, if these are social faux pas, have you ever tried to purposely engage in a social faux pas in order to, like, sort of, like, drive someone away, or like?
Not that I can think of consciously. I have a friend who, when she feels uncomfortable around groups of men, will fart a lot. Like, she's got some gut issues, so she's got a lot of bad gas, and she usually holds it in. But if she's on the train and men are, like, being pigs, she'll just get a little bit closer and let some big ass farts rip. So I think that's, like, great. I think she's a hero. But I don't know if I've ever consciously done that. I think when I was younger, like, men used to follow me on the train home, like, try to follow me home, and I would see, because I would switch train cars and they'd follow and, like, stare at me, and I'm like, how am I gonna get this guy away from me? I'm a very, like, soft, small woman. I would just start acting like a crackhead, or what I thought crackheads act like. So I'd, like, spread my legs and start, like, just being really gross and weird and, like, super sketchy, maybe, like, psychotic looking, and, like, mumbling to myself a bit. And usually they would stop following me. Like, it worked 10 out of 10 times, I would say. I'm sure if they themselves were some sort of, like, vicious meth addict without any sense of reason, they'd probably still keep following me. But usually they're just creepy dudes. So that worked. I think that's the only time I can think of offhand.
That's a great story.
Is it good? I jump all over the place, and I have a hard time with linear structures. Like I'm not a narrative thinker.
Okay, say that again. You're the David Lynch of storytelling.
That's what they told me, because I have a hard time with, like, a linear narrative, which I agree with, and I've always felt self-conscious of. So it's very nice to hear someone speak about it positively, not just like sometimes I'll tell them a story, and I can tell everyone just gets quiet and kind of, like, gets, like, this weird look on their face, and I thought it was making them uncomfortable, but I guess they're just like, wow, that's interesting, I'm going to process that for a bit. Because I generally, if I'm trying to tell this story, I have a hard time with the narrative, so I often just pick up on different, like, senses or ideas, and I'll jump back and forth throughout the information I'm trying to share. And I find it very frustrating and overwhelming, and I often just, like, choose not to tell stories. I'd rather just listen to other people for the most part. But
why do you find it frustrating?
Because as soon as I start telling the story, I want it already to be over. I'm like, can they just know what I'm talking about? I don't want to, like, go through. And so I'll often just, like, start the story and skip right to the end. Like, jokes are terrible for me. I don't have the, like, sense of like, following the line of the joke. I'll just be like, okay, this is the punchline. Oh yeah, I should go to the beginning of the joke now and tell you what that was. And I just find it frustrating because I don't enjoy the process of having to slow down and, like, be linear. Rather just share, like, in a couple sentences the basic idea of what the story or joke was, rather than actually go through the process of telling it. But I find myself really drawn to people who are narrative thinkers and who can tell the same story again and again and always make it more interesting, and also like have like a general narrative for their life. But I do agree that you can get tied to that, and people will get like hooked on it, and like this idea of themselves and what life is, and it can be very limiting. You know, a lot of people, especially if they're in a negative space or have like a victim mentality, they can get so stuck in telling themselves these stories again and again, and it makes it hard to experience anything outside of that. So you gotta watch for that. Like, I think that is a power, storytelling, but just watching how much you invest in and believe in what you're telling, because it's always a fiction, no matter what you're telling. I don't think there is a concrete truth, so it's up to you to decide what fiction you're telling yourself and the world. And some people are just, through trauma, are stuck telling shitty stories, you know? And they're not ones that they want to be a part of, but they just keep telling it again and again. And particularly things that have happened to people in the past can continue to haunt them if they keep telling that story. And like, I think you need to process your trauma so that you can like rewrite and escape your past, you know, and become a new person. Because if you've been traumatized and are now being a shitty person because of it, if you keep telling yourself that, you're never gonna be the person you want to be, you know. Just get like a lot more confidence. I'm sure for some people heels are the way, but I like a heavy boot. These aren't really heavy, but you kind of like just get your strut on, feel it, and they have like no grips, so you can like walk if you need to.
So it's either boots or bare feet.
Maybe, yeah. Barefoot's more vulnerable though. I think so. And be prepared to step on glass. And also you can't kick ass in them in barefoot. Sandals, never sandals. Sandals are no good for anything. I feel like that's been really important to me. And then for a while I was really passionate about people and friendship and just building connections. But I also think that passion came out of a place of not being connected to myself. And now I kind of feel like I'm going through like an identity crisis. Not sure what I'm passionate about right now, but maybe like being stable. I know that sounds super weird, but just finding something to ground myself and like routines and habits, because I've always been such a chaotic person. Yeah, I don't know. Passion seems so fleeting, but that's kind of the nature of it. What feels to ignite passion in one moment won't in the next. It's not worth it to cling to anything, but just to appreciate those moments of fire when they come. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm kind of finding something to be passionate about, like a project or a hobby. But I think the more grounded I become and just in tune with myself, the more that will naturally come.
So have you ever had to do things like question meaning or purpose? Or
yeah, I think I've done so much of that I'm almost sick of it. That
like, are you
like, it's an endless, like, it's a question that just brings more questions. Like, I don't think there is a definite answer. Like, I feel you get to decide. It's definitely a choose your own adventure, and to continue questioning it, unless you're asking the right questions, it's just going to go nowhere, leave you so confused and deconstruct any sense of self or identity that you have. So try not to like intentionally ask those questions anymore, but sometimes they arise or different answers just come. But I also, again, I wouldn't cling to anything. Everything is so in flux and changes so much. just being open to like being fluid, and the fact that maybe there isn't a real meaning or answer. Maybe that's the most important, is just being okay with uncertainty and not knowing. And I think a lot of the sickest people I know are the people who are constantly grasping for an answer and for a solution to their troubles. And I don't know if there is one. I think that's just human nature, is to be confused and uncertain. There's a kind of peace once you accept that, just are okay with not being okay.
So then you find that it's better to always be on the path, on the journey, rather than focus too much on the destination. Or
Yeah, I think so. I think the destination is death. I don't really know what that means, but I don't think, don't want to be too focused on that anymore.
do you find that you are constantly wanting to reinvent what makes you passionate, or are you just looking for one thing to pursue?
I think I like a lot of variety. And I don't think I really used to be jealous of people who could just find one thing they were into and put all of themselves into that, but I don't think that's in my nature. So I think I'll always be like jumping around and like coming back to things I'm interested in. That I'll never just stay in one spot. I need that, like, I really thrive on the feeling of change and of switching modes and different personalities. I used to, when I was younger, I'm like, okay, I finally figured out who I am. This is who I'm going to be for the rest of my life, or this is the person I'm going to date for the rest of my life. This is the career I want, the hairstyle. And you know what, it's just not like that. Some people, I think, are kind of like trees, and they're just the same person their whole lives. They just grow more into that person. I'm not one of those people, so I'm not a reliable personality, and I think figuring out who you are is more important than deciding like a life path or what you're going to do with yourself.
What do you do though with that state of like uncertainty, of that feeling of, how do you sort of like get off on that feeling of not being certain or not knowing for sure?
It's just being okay with like it being like life is more of a river than it is like a sculpture or anything. You don't know the way things are going to change, or like where that path is going to go. I don't know. I think just being okay with uncertainty, which doesn't really like describe much about it. Like I think I've read a lot of like Eastern philosophy books about it, but I couldn't really say like what I know specifically.
So what currently could you say is one of your passions?
I don't know, I'm trying to help my friend who's in a crisis. Like that's one thing right now that I'm trying to figure out. Maybe just finding a way to exist in society that isn't the way I've been doing it so far. Like I just want a change in that way. So it's doing a lot of like thinking about it and analyzing before I make a next step. And then also just jumping on the opportunities that are presented to me. Like not hesitating on those. But also just being okay with like a little bit of stagnation. That doesn't mean that I've hit a brick wall. That's kind of normal.
Do you get asked this question quite a lot? Like, are your friends are like lost and you have to like somehow give them some guidance, or does it?
Sometimes I find that people who need guidance the most won't ask for it. They're usually like very stubborn, and the most misguided people are really clinging to something in their lives. And I don't know, I think most people who are asking for guidance more so just need someone to listen to them, because they usually know what's right. Like I couldn't really tell anyone for their life what's right, but if you just listen to people, you can often help them figure it out, just talk them through it. Because I think most people have pretty good internal guiding systems if they're not like totally like fucked up on drugs or trauma, you know, which that's probably something you need to process before you go further. But most people know, like they can feel it in their guts. They're just like a little bit clouded by anxiety or, you know, just overthinking. Just like touching
That's okay. The moving around a bit is okay. It's I actually don't mind that because yeah, exactly. Just slightly move out of the. Talk about just for a second about your dancing, because you do a lot of dancing.
Yeah, I like dancing. I feel
Why?
like that's where I feel the most like internal stillness is when I'm dancing.
What do you mean?
I don't know, just like at most, like what's going on inside of me, my thoughts and my emotions are most calmed. But I think, I can't relate to people who can just like sit and do things or just like sit and think. My brain doesn't work if I'm sitting. I just start to fall asleep.
Right.
I'm not a sitter, but in movement I just feel, I'm a very like tactile person. And that's just how I process, is by moving. Like going for a walk or dancing or through body language and stuff, I communicate a lot. Like, I feel like some people are very cerebral and verbose, and I really appreciate that, but that's not always how I would communicate best. Like it's easier for me to communicate through a photo than it would be over the phone per se, where I have to like focus on what's going on with my voice or the words I'm actually using. But and yeah, everyone's different in that way too. Like I've definitely been very close to some people who aren't as tactile or kinetic, and for them they might be more visual and cerebral. And like it's interesting to connect with different people on different levels, and you can learn almost more how to communicate in their ways and to come onto their level if they're open to sharing with you and being vulnerable. It's really fun. And so I guess I take people to my level too. Like some people aren't as conscious of their body language, but if you just engage with them in an open physical way, people will start to mirror your body language. Like they'll start copying you. I don't know, like I've heard the term mirror neurons, I think, and I know that affects people, but people don't realize how much like how they feel is affected by the way they're standing. I used to be like super stunted emotionally and psychologically. I think in large part because I was always like standing like this, like closed off or like not conscious of standing tall. Like I always felt too big as a child. I was just like been this big for a very long time, maybe since I was little. So I just like picked up habits of trying to make myself smaller to not take up as much space. But I feel really good if I let myself take up space and just be taller, and when I'm talking to someone to like face them straight on and not be like fidgeting or like doing this. I'll still do that a lot, but I try to be conscious of it and it makes me feel good.
So dancing's been very helpful.
Yeah, I think I've like if I'm really angry or like having some sort of psychological issue, I want to go dancing because then I can just work it out and do like some angry dance moves. Or to me it's a lot more constructive than even talking about it, because I feel like a lot of times the words that come out of me when I'm in a toxic state are hurtful, even for people who are trying to just we're bystanders and have to hear like the weird shit that goes on in my brain. So to dance it out, it's so much more helpful. I find everything gets fluid. I like can feel the emotion more fully and get it out, as opposed to like sequestering it and letting it fester in my brain. Yeah, I don't deal well with that. Just like now?
Sure.
Whoa. Yes, this is a good one. This one feels good. But also I think the key to dancing is to like be okay with looking silly. Like people won't dance because they think they're gonna look stupid. I'm like, if you don't look stupid, you're probably doing it wrong. Like, just feels better to like look kind of stupid when you're dancing. Just like try different things. Like if I just tried to look sexy all the time, I find that so limiting. I had a friend once, and his like primary dance move was like doing this, and I always thought that was great. Like he always looked like he was having a good time. Just like did not care if he looked like an idiot. Like it was great. Just super into it. Like just shaking those fists. And I'm pretty sure he was just making fun of other people's dance moves that he'd seen, but it was so uniquely him. I thought it was great.
Do you have a signature dance move or a style that's just you?
I think I do, but I can't really think of it. Like, and it's different. Like at nightclubs, I might dance one way, and in my living room another, and then at festivals, a totally other way. I notice at festivals, I always try to like use my legs a lot because you're outside and you can. You know, like that's not a freedom you have when you're in a pack of closely knit people. But if you're kind of on your own, then you can branch out a bit more and like wiggle your arms and
Go to town.
yeah. And so I like that, but I'll tend to like do a lot of like kicking and like leaning back. Like always try to like move my elbows around, which I think just makes me look like I'm doing the funky chicken, which is also okay. But beyond that, I don't know if I have a specific dance style. Sometimes I just like wiggle around, and I totally look like seaweed.
Really?
That's my wiggle dance style.
Do you get criticism or feedback?
Oh, sometimes people just comment,
But it's,
yeah, sometimes people compliment my dance style or ask me to teach them how to dance, but I'm like, that's literally impossible. I just do a shot of tequila and then I just wiggle around. Like, it's not something that like I learned through other people. But I don't think anyone would ever criticize me. I think that would be very weird. I think anyone who criticizes someone else's like expression is probably a real doofus. You know, it's like, whoa, you must have low self-esteem if you're gonna try and funk up my jam.